Oh, he's talking about Fates. Whoa, there's gonna be some hot takes.
Time for the discourse.
Uh-oh. I'm
Yeah,
so
okay.
sorry. Oh my god.
Yeah. There we go. All right.
All right, so for those who do know me, I am a very large Fire Emblem fan. Far too large. Anyway, my first game that I really got into was Fates. It's kind of where I kind of learned to play everything. And for the longest time, Fates was kind of seen as the kind of butt of Fire Emblem. Kind of the worst one, kind of the terrible one, kind of sucks.
I think it's good.
So I'm here to ask the question. Come on, I'm doing something here.
You don't have permission.
Charlie has copyright.
How dare.
You got copyright by
So I'm asking the question that was on everybody's minds. But, like, is it, like, good, though, actually?
Yeah, I think it's good.
So the problem with Fire Emblem Fates is that it's actually 3 games. You make a very important decision come Chapter 6. Pick one, you play Birthright. Pick one, you play Conquest. Pick one, you play Revelation. Revelation doesn't have official box art.
So you made that?
Yeah.
Really? That's so cool. Woo!
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So I'm going to go over the premise first. For those who don't know the ins and outs of Fire Emblem Fates, this is Corrin. Corrin exists. Everybody's favorite Super Smash Bros. Character. You can play as either male or female Corrin. They're fine.
Which one do you choose?
Female Corrin because she's objectively better. You get Jacob. You can have a child early and get better units early.
Oh, we have a choice.
Yes. We'll get into that. Corrin has kind of been seen as like the worst lord in terms of personality and writing. For the longest time, I thought that too. I've kind of come around over the years, kind of mellowed over to Corrin. They're okay. But anyway.
Just okay?
Just okay. You know. So this is Fates Landia, because Fire Emblem Fates is allergic to world building. This map isn't in the game. There is no map in the game. So you play as Corrin. Corrin is a royal of Nor. That's this oddly light section of the map. Nor is actually kind of dank and dark and depressing and spooky and brambly and woody. Think Tim Burton's Fire Emblem. That's what Nor is. The sun doesn't even shine in Nor. Horrible place to live. Across the mountains,
Hoshido.
that's Hoshido. Good job. Hoshido, as opposed to Nor, is very bright, is very nice, is very verdant, is very fertile.
Whoa.
Nor is kind of
Fertile, I like that.
very fertile and breedable country.
Okay.
Yes. Depending on what route you pick. Nor is kind of styled after kind of your typical Fire Emblem fantasy world. It's kind of, medieval European fantasy, knights, armor, spears, swords, axes, etc., etc. Hoshido is kind of more Japanese. It's kind of like the only Japanese country in Fire Emblem. It's kind of wild that's only happened once.
Shrine maidens, ninjas.
Yeah. We'll get there. Have some fucking patience. God. So Nor and Hoshido are locked in kind of this endless kind of war stalemate thing, and it's a whole thing. This is your family. This is the Norian royal family.
Can you date them?
Yes.
Good question.
We'll get to that. From left to right, you got Big Bro Xander. Very disciplined, very stoic, very serious. Kind of the father of the family, even though they already have a father. You got Camilla. For lack of a better word, she's very motherly. It's tragic. I think there's actually some merits to Camilla's character that is kind of hidden within the support system, which we'll talk about later. But her design, she needs some support. Overall, while I think there are merits to her characterization and her role in the story and in Corrin's life, she's just a bit criminal. It's just not very pretty. Yeah. Next you got Leo. He's my favorite. He's my boy. He's the big nerd. He's bookish. He's a mage. He's kind of the butt of everyone's joke. They kind of dunk on him all the time, and it's a little unfair. He's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, everything to prove, middle child syndrome. It's just depressing, really. But, you know, that's fun because he tends to try to overcome it, for better or worse. And then you have Elise, who was a child.
I can see that.
She is a child.
You can date her,
She's a child.
but you can in the game.
Apparently.
That's
She's very bright. She's energetic. She's bubbly. She's nice. She's kind. She's fun. Very naive.
Probably because she's a child.
She's a child. Right. Yeah. Then you got Daddy Garen. He's a nice man. He's a very nice man who has done no wrong. And, you know, he's just a great guy. Psych! He's evil. He's a very bad man. I mean, he's a real jerk, this King Garen. Because turns out, Corrin is not a member of the Norian royal family. Ooh! The suspense. Back in the day, about 8 to 10 years ago, King Garen met with the Hoshidan king by the name of Sumeragi. And during this meeting, he killed King Sumeragi and kidnapped his child. Corrin is that child. So for the longest time, you have been raised believing that you were born of King Garen's ample loins and not a person of Hoshida. Wild. So this is your real family. From left to right, you got Ryoma, the Lobster Lord. He's
Love
very
him.
disciplined. He's very stoic. He's very serious. He's kind of the father of the family. Do you see a theme?
Yeah.
You got Hinoka, who's a woman.
Wow.
That's kind of what she's got going for her. She's Pegasus Knight. That's cool. It's like one of
That's
the
her
best
favorite.
classes. It's my favorite class. That's
Yeah.
cool. She's, you know, tomboyish, quicker to throw hands than to put on a dress. You have Sakura, who's a child. Very shy, very reserved, very kind of keeps to herself child, but a child nonetheless. You got Takumi, who is kind of the butt of the family. Kind of's got a chip on his shoulder. Kind of has things to prove. Middle child syndrome. I see a theme. I see a theme here.
He's also the best leader.
We'll get there. Then you got Queen Makoto, who is your mother. Your actual mother.
Okay.
So that's nice. Azura's also here. Oh no. Say hi to Azura. She's gonna say hi to you.
Hi, Zora.
You gotta
Oh, fine. There's a funny little video of Azura dancing.
You gotta ask for her permission.
Yeah, well, I gotta ask.
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
No.
No. Wait. There we go.
That's Azura. Azura. So Hoshido.
Recreate the dance.
She's the ocean's gray waves. I don't know the dance.
I'm the ocean's
Now you can move again. So Hoshido, upon learning that one of the member of their royal family was captured, said, no, they ain't gonna stand. We're gonna take one of yours. So a lot like Corrin. Oh no. A lot like Corrin, who is Hoshidan born but Norian raised. I almost called her Ahsoka. Azura is Norian born but Hoshidan raised. Do you see the parallels? Anyway. So, throughout the first couple chapters of Fire Emblem Fates, you start off in Nor. Through some shenanigans, you are captured by Hoshido. So you spend a little bit of time in Nor, you spend a little bit of time in Hoshido, and while you're in Hoshido, this sword that Corrin was given by King Garen explodes. Kills a shitload of people, including your mother, the queen of Hoshido. So, both families kind of gather the boys and go to this big hill. Nor says, yo, you took our prince and or princess. That can't stand. Hoshido's like, yo, you killed our queen. That ain't gonna stand. And Corrin's like, man, I gotta make a choice. So, you are given 3 options. Side with Hoshido, you play Birthright. Side with Conquest. Side with Nor, you play Conquest. Or you can say, you know what? Fuck all y'all, I'm out of here. You can refuse to choose a side, and you and Azura go off and kind of mess around for a bit. We'll get to that. So these are the 3 routes of Fire Emblem Fates. The premise is solid. The premise is very solid. There's some very important questions being taken here. You have found family, versus blood family. You have right versus wrong, light versus dark, yada 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 yada. Pacifism versus violence. Corn has a major choice to make, and it's compelling, and it's pretty cool. There's real emotions at play. There's real characterization at play. But ultimately, it means nothing. What do the 3 routes do with this premise? Well, Birthright is kind of the strongest of the 3. Heavy air quotes. It is kind of the good guy route, you know? Nor just kind of kill the queen. You say, well, that's not right. That's not right at all. I'm going to side with the good guys, and I'm going to defeat the bad guys. It's kind of boring. It's kind of your run-of-the-mill Fire Emblem story. Nor bad, beat Nor, game over. World's a better place. Everybody loves corn. They go home, have a party. There's some interesting moments towards the back end. I'm not going to get into any major spoilers because if any of you want to play Fire Emblem Fates, I want to leave that option open to you. Conquest is just the worst of the 3 in terms of story. It is supposed to be this kind of morally gray route that it opens Corn up to doing bad things for the greater good, a means to an end, but it never really develops on those ideas below or beyond the surface level. There's a lot of potentially interesting ideas. It kind of plays with the idea that King Garen is very much an abusive parental figure in the lives of the Norian family, and they don't really do anything to address that other than we need to kill him, make him sit on a chair, yada yada yada. It's a whole thing.
On a chair.
Yeah, that's real. There's a lot of potential here in Conquest, that I can think there's a really good story hidden within the bones of Fire Emblem Fates Conquest, but it doesn't really try to do anything because it's kind of scared to do anything. This is kind of a problem with Corn, because ever since FE12, Fire Emblem games have made player character and avatar that you have some sort of customization over, and that's kind of a problem because it means they're not really a fully developed character with their own thoughts, ideas, beliefs, etc., 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 because it doesn't want to go against what you, the player, may think. It wants you, the player, to kind of have this character act as a surrogate. So it doesn't want to do too many evil things because it may make you feel bad. And I think if Conquest had Corrin be a fully written, fully developed character with their own agency and their own ideas, and you know that they're explored for more than about 2 minutes, I think it could be great. But because there's just so much missed potential, it's just kind of the worst, and it's bad. This story's bad. Revelation also exists. Lamau.
I love those captions.
It's supposed to be the golden route where you save everybody because that major choice I said, there's major consequences behind each choice. Characters will live and die depending on what you choose. In Revelation, you're trying to get everybody to live, everybody to get along. But the way Corrin goes about to do that is you and Azura kind of just go around and tell people to stop fighting for half of the game because there's a secret invisible enemy amongst us that only we can see. You can see how compelling this argument is. It's bonkers. It's crazy. Chaos reigns supreme. Shenanigans. It's like so bad, it's kind of good. It's Fire Emblem as written by Tommy Wiseau. Exactly. And for that reason, it's kind of fun to just sit back and enjoy the chaos. While I think it's actually the worst story of the 3, it's goofy enough to where I kind of don't care. It's the best one. So that's the story. That's kind of all I'm going to talk about the story, because when discussing which Fire Emblem Fates game is the best, or whether they are indeed good games, the story's kind of irrelevant.
Question, Charlie. Isn't there a 4th route where Corrin joined Smash Bros. Instead?
That's not canon.
Ah.
Because nobody actually wants Corn and Smash. They just went home. Except Alex. Anyway, we'll talk about the gameplay of Fates, because that's its strongest aspect. What do the Fire Emblem do? Well, this is your typical Fire Emblem map. People have described Fire Emblem as being anime chess, and that's not entirely untrue. You got your blue units here in blue, those are your guys. You got the units here in red, those are the guys that you need to get rid of. There could be a myriad of objectives. It could be a route where you need to kill everybody. It could be a seize a point. It could be, press all these triggers and then get to a point. It could be an escape. It could be defend, etc., etc., etc. But at the end of the day, the kind of meat and potatoes of Fire Emblem gameplay is that your units need to be better than their units. That's basically this shit. Each unit has a different way of moving, they have different stats, they have different classes, they have different ways of attacking, and it's up to you to try to utilize your tools more than the enemy can utilize their tools. So, each Fire Emblem game kind of has a specific gimmick around it. And Fates' gimmick is called Pair Up. It started in Awakening, which was the game before Fates. In Awakening, if you and another unit got to a certain support level is kind of, as you fight units next to each other, you get support points, and those support points, you get enough of them, eventually you'll get a support rank, and each support rank is kind of a little conversation between units. It's a great way to characterize them, it's a great way to, add to the world without just having shit being told at you constantly. It's great. It's kind of the best part about Fire Emblem. Anyway, in Pair Up, you basically have one unit kind of pair up with another unit. The main unit then gets a stat bonus depending on your support rank and depending on whatever class the supporting unit is. In addition, in Awakening, the supporting unit had a percentage chance to join in with an attack. So Steely Phil here, who is what this YouTuber named the Robin, will do 13 attack. After that 13 attack, Vake has a 35% chance to do an extra attack, and a 6% chance to defend against the enemy's attack on you. In Awakening, Pair Up was terrible, and it's partly why I don't like playing Awakening anymore. It was all RNG, it was all percentage based, and you couldn't really plan around it unless you had an S rank or an A rank support to where it got high enough to really be kind of worthwhile and guaranteed. Anyway, I was going to take a moment here, because talking about supports in Fire Emblem Fates leads me to one thing. It is the worst thing Fates does. And I can't do a discussion about Fire Emblem Fates without fucking talking about this. You can marry your siblings and have children with them.
Yeah, now I can see this stuff.
What the fuck, man? I don't understand. So this is Corrin talking to Ryoma, her brother by blood, saying that, oh, by the way, we're not actually related. You know that whole premise of Fire Emblem Fates Birthright? Where it was kind of your found family in Nora versus your real family? In Hoshino, well, that doesn't matter anymore. That's all thrown out the window because it turns out they're not related.
So it's like her husband. Her husband?
And it's criminal is what it is. So here's Corrin, learning from Hinoka that she is not her brother, and then immediately attempting to smash. Here's Corrin again saying, hey, since we're not siblings anymore, we might as well fuck. It's terrible. That's a child. That's a child. Who thought this was a good idea?
Japan.
Another thing, in Revelation, you learn that Corrin and Azura actually are related.
Right.
They're cousins.
Right.
First cousins. Their mothers are sisters. You can marry her and have children.
No.
Who thought this was a good idea? Anyway, Para.
Is this a slideshow about the game or the romance?
That's just a major sticking point in determining whether Fire Emblem Fates is a good game or not. It's very important. I didn't just want to yell and rant and rave for 5 minutes. Anyway, Para. This is how it worked in Awakening. It sucked. I don't like it. How it works in Fates is infinitely better because it takes the RNG out of it. It takes the chance out of it. And there's two versions of Para in Fates. Camilla here is attacking this enemy armor knight that got cut off because I'm an amazing graphic designer. Camilla is adjacent to this Corrin. So Camilla's going to do 16 damage, and Corrin will guarantee join in for half of what she would normally do if she was the attacker. You can actually plan around this. You can set up formations to take down tough enemies, bosses, groups of enemies. You can actually strategize around it rather than it being a 25% chance of your strategy working or not. This is the defensive version of pair up in Fire Emblem Fates. So this little minus here means that while you are paired up with another unit, meaning you occupy the same space, you would not take this second counterattack if the enemy were to do it, because by the way, the enemy can use pair up as well. It's pretty good. In addition, you have this little shield meter, which for every either attack or from you or from an enemy, you would gain 2 shields. And when your shield meter is full, you are guaranteed to block an attack. No more RNG. It's gone. It's been taken out of the equation. You can make plans. It's great. It's amazing. Pair up is one of my favorite mechanics in all of Fire Emblem, and I wish it would come back in this form, but it probably won't. Anyway, Birthright. Gameplay, specifically the Birthright. It is the easiest one. It is the easiest one. There is kind of a super huge late game spike on Lunatic mode. Fire Emblem Fates has 3 difficulties, normal, hard, and Lunatic. And Birthright kind of only really has some spikes on Lunatic, and even then, it's only really from chapter 23 onwards, and there's only 27 chapters. So there's not really a lot of fun to play around in the late game of Birthright. The gameplay of Birthright is kind of most similar to Awakening in terms of its design philosophy. Most, if not all, characters are viable to use, regardless of how much kind of time and effort you put in. It's really easy to just pick up a unit, throw them at enemies, and have them do well. Most maps are routes, meaning it's just defeat all the enemies and you win. And most map designs are kind of fairly open. It's a big open field that you just fight people on. Not all of the maps are, but there's more of them in Birthright than there are in Conquest and Revelation. So the pros to Birthright is that there are unique classes. Don't you smile at me? There are unique classes that you don't find anywhere else in the Fire Emblem series. There's ninjas, there's Amyojis, there's shrine maidens, there's Kinshi knights, there's Oni warriors, and not only are they different stylistically, they're different in terms of the weapons they use. You got kind of daggers and swords for ninjas. Amyoji are kind of this reskin mage that uses spirits instead of spells. It's pretty cool. Shrine maidens use staves and bows. You don't have that combination anywhere else. Not fun. The cons about Birthright is that it's kind of super easy, like I said, and it's super easy game to break, which we'll get into. It's a bit boring if you know what you're doing, and it's kind of just, going through the motions. This is why Birthright is so easy. So Ryoma is like the best unit in the game, and it's not close. It's not close at all.
Yeah.
And this is why. So Ryoma has a personal sword. Ryoma has a personal weapon, Xander has a personal weapon, Leo has a personal weapon, and Falcony has a personal weapon. Ryoma's is the best by far, because it has 11 might at E rank. E rank means he can use it whenever the hell he wants, because E rank is the lowest weapon rank. Most sword units, which Ryoma is, he's a sword master, need to work up to B rank to use a weapon of similar power. Weapon rank in Fates is notoriously hard to raise. So, it takes a long time. So not only does he have base 11 might for free, when he has it equipped, he gets strength +4. So he has essentially a 15 might weapon, which is ridiculous. In addition to that, he's got, each character has a personal skill. His personal skill is Bushido, meaning when he's the lead unit in a pair-up, and he is of a higher level than a support unit, he gets crit 10, +2 damage, -2 damage, which just makes him even more tanky than he already is, and it gives him even more damage than he already has, which he doesn't need. In addition, he has his class skills, which just add on to his ridiculousness. This is an example of Ryoma in a late game fight. This is after that chapter 23 spike that I mentioned before. He's fighting a Great Knight, who is an armored horse rider. He was using lances. The weapon triangle exists in Fire Emblem. Swords are good against axes, axes are good against lances, lances are good against swords. You get an avoid bonus as well as a damage bonus if you have weapon triangle advantage. Ryoma is fighting at a weapon triangle disadvantage, meaning he has -2 damage done, +2 damage taken, as well as an accuracy debuff. Ryoma doesn't give a shit, because Ryoma is already doing a base 44 damage with his 2 attacks. He has 100% accuracy and 38% crit, so he's probably going to kill this armor knight anyway. This is why Ryoma can break games, because you can just throw him, regardless if he's paired up or not, into a group of enemies, because Birthright is mostly routes, and because it's a lot of open maps, you can just have Ryoma kill half the map, and nothing matters anymore. This is the problem with Birthright. These are some of my favorite characters from Birthright. Oboro, Setsuna, and Takumi. They're pretty cool. Oboro is kind of, you know, she's racist, but she gets over it, and that's what's compelling about Oboro.
I don't know.
Setsuna is a big dork who gets stuck in traps, and she's stupid, no thoughts, head empty.
That's me.
She's just fun. Takumi is kind of fun to just see grow, because he's got a lot of weaknesses and self-doubts and self-conscious issues, and seeing him either double down on them or learn to grow from them is genuinely compelling, and I think he's the best written character in Birthright. He's the only Birthright Royal that I think really has a lot of character.
His character design.
It's fucking solid. This is a tier list of all the Birthright exclusive characters for those who care. Yeah, I got the 3 up top. Those are my favorite. A rank means I quite like them. B rank means I have kind of little to no opinion, or I think their positives and negatives are kind of equal. C rank, there's a couple things kind of dragging them down, and D rank, I don't want to talk to you again. So we're moving on to Conquest. Conquest is the hardest route of the 3 routes, but also conversely, it's kind of the most balanced one. While most characters are viable, they still require a lot of kind of thought and investment into them to make them good. So you're gonna have to plan things out and kind of map things out and kind of map out your kind of style of attack when you're looking to play Conquest. There's more different maps. Not all of them are winners, but a lot of them are. There's more varied objectives, meaning instead of just route, there's a couple kill boss maps, there's a couple defense maps, there's a couple escape maps. It's just kind of, you know, there's more stuff to do. Pros, I think all of the above work in Conquest's favor, as well as having a kind of more consistent difficulty curve. There are spikes, but there are more of them, and they are not as strong as the Birthright spike. It's harder to break. You certainly can break it, given enough time and effort, but you kind of got to think about it. It has my favorite map in the entire Final Fantasy series, Chapter 10. It's the best one. Don't at me. But late game, although it is a more consistent curve, it's still super hard. And a lot of late game maps kind of suck. Off the top of my head, the Pot map, Ninja Hell, Takumi's Wall, Hinoka's Wild Ride, and Fuga's Wild Ride, for those who know or for those who care to learn. They're all terrible, and that's not a problem with Conquest. This is Chapter 10. This is my favorite map in Fire Emblem, and I'm going to explain why, because I'll have you stuck listening to my diatribe. Yeah. So, this is the map. It's kind of this port town. You spawn in the middle here. While enemies are spawned all around you. They're trying to get here. This big green bar. If a enemy unit even touches that green bar, you lose the map. You have some tools for you to use. It is a defend map. You need to defend for 11 turns. After the enemy phase on the 11th turn, you win. You've kind of got some tools here to defend. There's some walls here, and while they are breakable, you are wise to use them. You have these 3 separate chokes that you can set up defensive formations around, as well as these 2 things, which are ballistae, meaning if you have an archer stand on them, they can do kind of this AoE attack. While it doesn't kill, it does a lot of damage, and weakening these big groups of enemies is vital if you want to succeed. This is the same thing, but it's magic. You need a mage to use it. These are how the reinforcements work. Reinforcements spawn on each turn. You can see what spawns and what colored square they spawn on. It's a lot of enemies rushing at you very quickly. Turn 3, you do get help in Camilla, Selena, and Baruka. They're vital assets. Camilla is kind of the strongest unit in the game, and while she's not as broken as Ryoma is, she is still can one round most enemies, and if you just need an enemy gone, Camilla's the one to do it. Solid. Turn 7 is when shit hits the fan, because you are kind of have your units kind of spread thin, defending these things. In addition, you have these 4 houses which give you very important items and gold, which you need because Conquest has limited resources compared to Birthright and Revelation. Turn 7, the water level is lowered, meaning you are fully exposed. and you need to plan even more if you want to survive. This is kind of everything I love about Fire Emblem, kind of succinct into one general package, and it's why it's the best map. I love it. I want it to marry me. These are my favorite Conquest characters. I like a lot more Conquest characters than I do Birthright characters. Odin, Ophelia, Niall, Selena, and Leo. Leo, I think, is the best noble. Laszlo, Selena, and Odin kind of have this trio going on. They're very fun together. They have a big bond. Ophelia and Odin are like D&D LARP nerds who just kind of yell attacks and go crazy. It's fun. Niles is peeking up down there. He just likes
Destroying too much
going.
power.
He's fun. This is my Conquest tier list. I like a lot of them. Very solid. Yeah, same tiers. Oh no. It's Revelation.
Derek's over there laughing too.
Revelation's go wild.
He's covering
It's
himself.
just kind of all over the place. The balance of Revelation, nobody thought about it when they were making this game. Chaos reigns supreme. Every single character from every single round is here. Plus the one Revelation exclusive character is this guy, it's Fuga. Say hi to Fuga. There's 67 characters, which is a lot of characters. The benefits to having so many characters is that it's a really fun sandbox to just go do shit in. You can make fun builds. Anything can work if you grind enough. And that's kind of the mantra that Revelation lives by. In addition, there's exclusive support conversations because you have both units from Birthright and Conquest. And because of that, you have supports together.
Imagine if Charlie
And you can
did this
see,
like
they're very
Hebrews.
cool, and you can only see them in Revelation.
I shoot myself.
It's kind of a middle difficulty between Birthright and Conquest, but the balance for the units is terrible. Their join time is terrible, most units. You can get every single unit before Chapter 18. There's like 28 chapters in the game. It's not pretty. And the Revelation exclusive maps are just the worst in the franchise. I hate them all. Stuff like teleportation, stuff like moving platforms, stuff like shoveling snow as a gameplay mechanic. They're just not fun. They're annoying. This is the main barrier of enjoying Revelation as a game. It's also a eugenics simulation. You can have children in Awakening, that I've mentioned before, or in Fates. In Awakening, it made sense because those children were coming back from the future to stop a calamity. Think future Trunks. In Fates, they said, well, people like that mechanic in Awakening. We're going to re-add it.
It's
But we're not going to
one
put
of
any
the Fire
thought
Emblem
into
Fates
whether it
game.
works or not.
I think
We're just gonna have
Birthright.
kid and shove them in this magical time realm so they pop out as 18-year-olds in about 2 months.
How many games is Fire Emblem?
So
it makes no sense.
there's
It makes
14
no sense
or
story-wise,
except
but
like
it's still
more than
fun.
14.
and I'm glad
But
it's
this
in the
particular
game.
one, Fire Emblem 13,
You have
has 3 different versions of the game that he's talking
kids are
about.
kind to fathers, and it's a whole thing. But basically, you can just mix and match and essentially create your own units, and it's a solid time. This is why it's the best sandbox, because you can essentially make your own. This is how the class system works in Fates. Each unit has a default class as well as a secondary class they can switch to. In addition to that, if you are S-ranked with a person, you could use a partner seal to get their default class. If you are A+ ranked, which is typically for same-sex individuals, you can get their default class.
kidding me?
Change. You can pass these
Yo, you gotta
classes
fix
on to
that.
Kids. Kids' stats are kind of a combination of both parents. It's solid. It's fun. It's a good time. This is, no, these are
No one in
that
S
are
rank,
shared
wow.
Between both Birthright and Conquest, because Revelation only has one specific unit. It's Fuga. He's down there in D tier. So, regardless if you're playing Birthright or Conquest, these are the units you will always get. They're just kind of okay. I don't love any of them. I don't hate any of them. They just kind of exist.
There's the
Because I made
conclusion.
3 tier lists, I felt the need to combine it into one big tier.
Nobody in F tier.
Yeah, we're almost done. Consider yourself thankful. So is Fates good? Kinda. Birthright has the strongest story. I think it's a decent entry point in the series if you're new. It has this unique style that's not found anywhere else. It has Takumi, which is a plus. Takumi's great. I think it has a couple interesting characters, but it's just kind of boring at times, and it's too easily trivialized by doing very little work. Conquest, I think, has the best gameplay of the three, but also it has the weakest story. I think it's the most balanced, and I think it has the better characters compared to Birthright. It has the GOAT map, which is Chapter 10, but the story kind of fails to live up to its promise and its potential, and there's just a couple maps that I just didn't play when I'm playing Conquest. Revelation exists. It's just fun to mess around in it every once in a while, but the balance is abysmal. You really have to work against the game if you want to have fun with it, but if you really want to have the fun, it's there if you just work hard enough. So this is how I would rank them.
Pretty good.
Conquest is the best because the gameplay is the best. Conquest is probably my most played Fire Emblem game. It's my second favorite. I love it. Echoes is my first. Go play Echoes. It's the best one. Revelations is in a distant second place because it tries to do its best, and you know what? There's some value there. Birthright is fine. Birthright exists. And that's about it. So yeah, that's it. Play Fire Emblem now!